Exactly 2:20 a.m., September 14th, 2025. In the Stroganovo area, Leningrad Oblast. An operative from the Shchit-91 combat group, disguised in a maintenance uniform, successfully infiltrated the junction between Stroganovo and Mshinskaya. He planted a directional explosive device onto the rail fasteners. The entire action was swift, precise, and left no trace. From a hidden command post 75 miles away, a Ukrainian reconnaissance team monitored the entire scene via thermal imagery streamed through a fiber-optic UAV link. The signal traveled through a glass core thinner than a human hair, delivering high-resolution visuals without generating any detectable electromagnetic emissions. On the screen, the thermal feed appeared razor-sharp, the diesel locomotive glowing at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, each tank car holding steady heat signatures. Thermal output does not lie. It revealed that all 15 tank cars were fully loaded, carrying an estimated over 2.2 million pounds of diesel fuel. The connecting joints exposed clear weak points, vulnerable to impact. The train was moving along the single-track corridor of Luga-Gachina, heading toward the Gachina rail hub, the only surviving ground lifeline linking the Leningrad rear area with the strategic defensive belt south of St. Petersburg. The sheer volume of fuel on board was enough to sustain 3 armored brigades for more than a week. But the value of the train went beyond just fuel. After 3 separate road sabotage incidents near Luga earlier that month, the Luga-Gachina railway had become the last artery still intact. That was why Ukrainian intelligence elevated this convoy into a priority target. Cripple it, and the southern defensive ring of St. Petersburg would be starved instantly. The data was cross-checked. The air defense blind zone confirmed, the strike plan locked. This was not an impulsive act, but a deliberate plan, prepared in detail, waiting only for the prey to step into the trap to trigger a 2-phase attack. For the crew, this was a strategic transport, tightly guarded and cloaked in secrecy, but they had no idea the entire schedule had already fallen into Ukrainian hands. Every movement of the train had been reconstructed, pieced together from local informant networks using encrypted phones combined with GSM leakage from a logistics relay station. SIGINT technicians processed the packets, cross-referenced them with commercial satellite imagery, and built a complete timetable. Departure times, average cruising speed, crew changeover points, even the brief halts at secondary checkpoints, all digitized and overlaid onto a tactical map. Thus, the Shchit-91 combat group was able to reach the junction between Stroganovo and Mshinskaya and rig the directional explosive to the track fasteners. This device was never intended to obliterate the whole convoy. Its sole purpose, create a blast strong enough to derail the lead cars. Once the train came to a halt inside the air defense dead zone, the real strike would begin. At exactly 2:35, with the train less than 7.5 miles from the ambush point, a disguised truck hidden deep in the forest sent out an encrypted signal. Moments later, 4 FPV drones launched in a wide arc, each carrying a small PG-7VL anti-armor warhead mounted on a reinforced frame. These were not off-the-shelf commercial drones. They had upgraded cameras with 56 times digital zoom, hardened data links in jamming environments, and sustained cruise speeds of 100 to 112 miles per hour. UAV-1, locked on car number 3. UAV-2, targeted car number 9. UAV-3, moved toward car number 13. UAV-4, held altitude, ready to strike the locomotive if required. Inside the cab, the train chief was checking engine oil pressure and coolant temperature. Beside him, the co-driver scanned the brake air pressure and steady speed readings. All parameters remained within safe limits, but they had no idea. Unseen eyes were watching every movement as the train crept toward a trap already laid out. At 2:50 a.m., the train rolled into the open corridor between sparse woodland and meadows. This was the marked gap in air defense, where the charges had been planted. Speed, 27 miles per hour. Recon drone feed confirmed No radar returns, no active jamming, no battlefield coordination signals from any supporting units within 15 miles. In the command center, the screen flashed status. Status tactically isolated. At the same moment, the message, "Fire conditions confirmed," was relayed from the UAV station to the ground assault team. Immediately, all control stations switched to attack mode. Cabin lights turned from green to red. The UAV screens locked targets, plotted approach vectors in real time, and streamed guidance to the FPV drones now closing in. Countdown displayed 60 seconds, 50 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. At exactly 2:51 minutes and 44 seconds AM, car number 3 rolled over the prepared section of rail. A pressure sensor under tie number 9 registered an overload. 0.4 seconds later, the closed circuit engaged. A string of small charges detonated sequentially along the fasteners and sleepers. The blast was not massive, but sufficient to shear the joints, bend the rails, and pry the wooden ties loose from the ballast. Nearly 985 feet of track instantly lost stability. Cars 4, 5, 6, through 11 slid off alignment. Some wheels skidded into the ballast bed. The entire train lurched, shuddered, and twisted under momentum. The speedometer needle plunged. Tremors rippled along all 15 cars. Inside the cab, the train chief barely had time to yank the emergency brake. The co-driver hit the alarm. Compressed air hissed as brakes vented across the train length. Nearly 2 million pounds of steel shrieked across the tracks. At 2:51 minutes and 50 seconds AM, the convoy derailed completely. Car number 4 tilted left. Car number 6 jumped axle, dragging the following cars into diagonal collapse. Couplers twisted, steel shells slammed together, fuel hatches burst open. Part of the locomotive listed sideways. Mid-cars skewed nearly 40 degrees off the main axis. Some rear cars vaulted off the ballast, stacking atop one another like hollow shells. Nothing remained in its original shape. The train lay overturned, exposed among shattered track and scattered rock. A few small fires smoldered. Fuel trickled into thin streaks under the tanks. The beast had been ripped from its path. The crew scrambled out, desperate to salvage the convoy, unaware that the real killing blow was still inbound. Now the train lay like a wounded animal in the field, awaiting either a miracle or to become carrion for vultures. And Ukraine had calculated perfectly. No guard posts within 12 miles. The nearest settlement was over 5.5 miles away. No air defense, no rapid reaction units. All that awaited was the finishing strike, the one that would cripple the train beyond recovery, severing the supply artery feeding the Volosovo front. The entire operation had been scripted in advance under the hard stop, fast kill tactic. Force the target to halt at a pre-selected site, then destroy it with pinpoint UAV strikes. At exactly 2:52 minutes and 40 seconds AM, from 3 directions, 4 FPV drones were closing in, less than 2 miles from the target. On the reconnaissance screen, everything was crystal clear. Stable speed, formation intact, altitude consistent. UAV 1 locked on car number 3, UAV 2 targeted car number 9, UAV 3 moved toward car number 13. UAV 4 maintained altitude, waiting for the order to strike the locomotive. At 2:52 minutes and 34 seconds AM, UAV 1 crossed the abandoned highway cutting through the forest, dropping to an altitude of 100 feet. The camera shook slightly in the low-level wind. The operator made 3 manual corrections to stabilize the view. Attack range, 1,050 feet. Dive angle, 24 degrees. The target zoomed in within 0.8 seconds. The reticle held steady. 2 seconds later, detonation. The warhead pierced through car number 3. Diesel vaporized under pressure. A jet of fire shot 82 feet high. The blast wave knocked car number 2 off alignment. Flames raced through the coupling pipe and caught car number 4. The locomotive cluster ignited. Fire spread with the wind. Dense black smoke rolled upward. At 2:52 minutes and 50 seconds AM, UAV 2, approached from the southeast. Target, car number 9, the convoy's center. Aim point, left side weld, just beneath the relief valve. The shaped charge punched through the tank wall, leaving a hole about 3 inches wide. Flames erupted, followed by a full secondary explosion. Cars 8 and 10 ignited in sequence. The 3 center cars burned as one. Thermal readings showed temperatures exceeding 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. 3 seconds after the second blast, UAV-3 locked in. Dive angle, 28 degrees. Speed, 107 miles per hour. Wind stable. Camera axis, steady. Car number 13 was ripped open. Fuel sprayed outward, igniting in mid-air. Flames spread to cars 14 and 15. The tail section was now on fire. The train had split into 3 independent fire clusters. Front section burning for over 10 minutes. Center, flames spreading at extreme speed. Rear, newly ignited, thick smoke billowing. No one could approach. Even fire response units, if any existed, would be unable to reach the site for the next 30 minutes. At 2:53 minutes and 20 seconds a.m., UAV-4 still hovered above, unarmed. The blaze at the front intensified, smoke now obscuring the sight picture. From the control station came a single command: "Finish it!" 4 seconds later, UAV-4 dropped to 130 feet, the camera locking onto the diesel locomotive. It dove at a 25-degree angle, accelerating to 110 miles per hour. The warhead punched through the 0.8-inch steel engine housing and detonated after 0.3 seconds. The explosion was small, but surgical. The engine block shattered. The drive shaft split apart. The transmission was pulverized. The technical bay ignited from within. The cab twisted, the entire locomotive leaning 10 degrees to the right, dead forever. At 2:55 a.m., the convoy was now a corpse. 3 blazing clusters still roared. Black smoke churned upward beyond 650 feet, driven straight toward Gatchina. 10 seconds later, the reconnaissance UAV feed went dark. The fiber line self-destructed. Within 4 minutes, the control team had packed every device, wiped mission data from the buffer. Nothing traceable remained. On site, the heat kept rising. Fuel still burned. Partially intact tankers began cooking off one by one. In under 11 minutes, a Russian fuel train carrying over 2.2 million pounds of diesel had been annihilated. By 4 FPV drones, 1 directional explosive, and less than $10,000 in operational cost. But the fire kept raging. The locomotive cluster poured out heavy smoke. The center blaze started to wane, while a secondary detonation in the rear blew the hatch of car number 15 clear across the western field. Fuel slicks kept burning on the ground, forming a 500-foot line of fire trailing with the wind. The remaining cars grew hotter each minute, threatening new chain explosions. No one dared to approach for the next half hour. Total damage: 9 cars completely destroyed, 3 heavily damaged. The diesel locomotive shattered off its axis, unsalvageable. The rail segment between Stroganovo and Mshinskaya was warped across 984 feet, with at least 90 sleepers torn out. Regional rail traffic was crippled. Cleanup and minimum restoration would take no less than 72 hours. Less than 30 minutes after the strike, the first videos surfaced on Telegram. From the edge of Mshinskaya, footage showed 3 blazing infernos, smoke columns rising like pressure plumes over 650 feet high. By 6 a.m. the next morning, Russia's Ministry of Transport released its official statement, brief, formulaic: a freight train experienced a technical malfunction and derailed due to track failure in Leningrad Oblast. No casualties. All cars were reported empty. Emergency crews are on site. No mention of drones. No mention of shaped charges. No mention of fire. But satellite images told a different story. 9 tankers burned out, frames twisted, hatches hurled dozens of meters away. Flames soared tens of feet high. The locomotive lay on its side, engine room obliterated. A smoke plume stretched nearly 2.5 miles toward Gatchina, visible even on commercial thermal satellite imagery released hours later. Opposition sources and Ukrainian intelligence confirmed the train was not empty. It carried diesel fuel, part of an operational-level logistics chain feeding the armored groupings south of St. Petersburg, a sector being reinforced for an expected counteroffensive later that month. Estimated losses: 9 cars, roughly 2.2 million pounds of fuel valued between $600,000 and $650,000. Locomotive worth about $2.5 million. Rail infrastructure damage requiring at least $350,000 for initial repair. Total material loss exceeded $3.5 million. Meanwhile, Ukraine's total expenditure under $10,000, 4 FPV drones, 1 fiber-optic reconnaissance UAV, and a pre-planted directional charge. The southern Leningrad supply line was severed for 3 days. At least 2 armored brigades had to reroute through the secondary line via Luga, longer, narrower, more exposed to ambush. Subsequent convoys were forced to split, add escorts, and divert air defense assets, stretching Russia's defensive grid thin across the entire corridor. It wasn't just fuel that was lost, it was rhythm. The heartbeat of Russian logistics faltered. Across Western military forums, comments appeared within hours. 4 FPV drones and 1 mine. They burned an entire supply route. This is textbook asymmetric warfare and a warning to every other train. Russia lost over $3 million. Ukraine spent 1 night and 4 cheap drones. By nearly 8 a.m., the fires were still not fully extinguished. The locomotives smoldered. Core temperatures remained above 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Half-burned tankers lay twisted like carcasses across the open field. Black smoke still rose, and it wasn't just diesel burning. It was logistics. It was a system cracking from within. No rail line was safe anymore, no train could sleep through the night, and no supply route would ever again be taken for granted.